7:00, so it's time to start the meeting. First order of business is pledge of allegiance. Paul, can you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, approval of the minutes. Everybody's received them, I trust. Had a chance to read them.
Got one correction there. Frammel's name is spelled wrong. It's spelled with 2 M's. It should be 1 M, I think.
Any other concerns, questions about the minutes? Hearing none, motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, motion's approved, for approval has been made. Second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. And abstentions. Passes unanimously. First agenda item is new business, discussing on when and to have a public forum meeting for people to come to express thoughts on commercial and industrial solar. For board members that haven't been following local activities lately, there's been quite a bit of controversy about the solar options for regulation in code. And what I'm kind of giving you my perspective on it, and I'm sure you follow the news, but there's a group that has concerns about solar energy. And you all remember we passed that and the commission passed it, and we kind of thought we were done with that. But what seems to have happened is they didn't get the information that they needed to weigh in on the concern. And they went to a couple of meetings of the county commissioners, and it got pretty contentious. And as a result, the board, the commissioners asked us to go back and kind of do a redo and see if we can give the chance for the people that oppose this to get more information about it and to express their concerns. So that's really what's on our plate tonight. And I say this to the board members, but also to the gallery, to all of you in the gallery. I don't want this to become a shouting contest or devolve into a tit-tat for this and that. I really want us to work together, all of us to work together to do what's in the best interest of the county. And I think we can do that. And I've had individual conversations with a lot of the main players on this, and I feel like we're on that track. So I just say that to say that my commitment is to make sure everybody knows what the code says and what it means, and then to be able to express concerns about that. So we as a board, as a commission, need to decide when and how we can do some more time with those who have concerns about the solar projects. I have been working with people from that have the concerns, and Darren and some others, and we've kind of cleared the November 14th meeting to really have an informational session that we can do. We don't, currently don't have anything else on the agenda right now. There may be one other thing, but it seems like a minor one that wouldn't take a lot of time. So I'm going to put the proposal out there that we reserve the November 14th regular meeting to have I don't know what the proper word is because I don't want to use words that mean something in particular, but I just want us to have an opportunity to have dialogue with those who have concerns about the code that we passed. So, discussion.
November 14th, I'm completely fine with that. I would like, for the benefit of all the folks in the audience here, for us to deliver a very clear message to them on what is required of them to speak and all those ins and outs to where they don't show up and we shut them down.
Right.
Because they didn't follow some rule that we didn't
Yeah,
assimilate to them. So
good point.
whatever those are, I don't know how, if it's completely up to us to make up, if we get to decide what that is, but I want them all, when they leave here, to know what they got to do to have their opportunity to speak.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
Isn't it Robert's rules where people from the audience don't speak unless they're called on to?
Well, it's not so much in Robert's rules, but we can make up rules that work for the orderly processing of all this information. I mean, that's our prerogative to do. And I think we probably ought to spend some time on that tonight. David Fisher sent me an email this afternoon suggesting some things based on, he goes to Topeka quite a bit and is involved in things at Topeka. And he's got some suggestions. So you want to talk about that now, or do we need to settle on the 14th? Let me ask this question. Will the 14th work for everybody here?
Mhm.
Okay.
I think that would be a good night because that's the night people should be here anyhow.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I don't think that needs a motion. We just all have consensus that the 14th will work. Generally, what we try to do, and this is more the benefit for Dan and whoever else may be new, we try to have an opportunity to listen to the concerns and then we ask questions about concerns, and then we don't get into a dialogue. We don't. There's not a you said this and you said that. It's we want to sit and listen, and then at a later time, I'm suggesting that we have a work group, a work session, where after we've heard everybody talk on the 14th, we have a work session that anybody's invited to attend. But the difference with the work session is only the board, only the commissioners can talk. And then that's where we get to discuss this in front of whoever wants to come in and listen. And then we, if we can, make a decision after that discussion. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about. How's that sound to the rest of you?
Sounds good to me. Do we have any of the thoughts of the commissioners since they sent it back to us? What they would like to see?
Specific instructions.
Darren?
I don't think that there was anything specific. I think they just wanted, everybody, planning and zoning commission to reevaluate the whole Article 8 or Article 14
14.
as a whole.
And I know how that may pain some of you. We spent hours and hours and hours, and there was times where we were meeting 3 times a week, and we were going from 6 to 10 to get this all hammered out. And I know how much work that did, that cost everybody. And but I'm really convinced we need to review it again. Well, actually, we don't have a chance. We don't have a choice. The commissioners have asked us to do that, and we work at their pleasure. So we're going to do that. Let me talk about some of the ideas David had. One of the big issues is trying to figure out the time, how to use the time to work through this issue, having people speak. I started this discussion, say, well, maybe we just ought to have an hour and a half and let the people that have issues with the code just divide the time up between them and however they want to do it. But I've been convinced that that's fraught with some big problems. First of all, you're not letting both sides talk about it, and then you've used up all your time just with the hour and a half giving it to the other people. So I'm back to thinking that we probably need to limit individuals, given that we have about an hour and a half, and we probably could stretch it to 2 hours if we wanted to. But again, I mean, that just makes it a long, long session. I'm thinking we probably need to have some way to figure out how many people are going to want to talk. Now, David said up in Topeka they have to register ahead of time, and he's not suggesting that for us, and I don't think that's a very good idea either. But he championed an idea of before we get into the hour and a half discussion or however long we decide it's going to be, we do a show of hands of how many people want to talk.
So personally, I would prefer if we had a deadline and said you have to speak, and only because if someone has information they want to present, I would much rather have it ahead of time and allow me to digest it to where I can ask logical questions.
And he says that's what they do up in
Rather than give them 10 minutes and them not really be able to get their full point across and not deliver me all the information to where I can actually read through it. So, if someone from the audience wants to speak, 10 days from now, or whatever the limit is, they have to get with Darren and put on the list. And then if they have a packet of information that Darren can get to us ahead of time, I would much prefer to review that before they come in and talk. Otherwise, I'm going to feel like we're just kind of drinking from a fire hose and not have time to digest it.
I think the commissioner said something about, or Gary, I can't remember who said it, to have the questions ahead of time, so we'd at least be able to think about them.
Yeah. And David wrote me a note, and that note, he said, that's what they do in Topeka. If you want to speak, you've also got to have the written
Right.
part, the written, whatever you're going to speak about ahead of time. That's,
Yeah, I don't
That's
feel like we need
Topeka.
that. I just feel like we need, if they have information they want to present to us, I think we should give them the opportunity to get it to us ahead of time.
ahead of time.
Yeah, that's my opinion.
Well, the rest of
I
you,
like that, have the information ahead of time, so we can review it too.
yeah. Not require it, just
Yeah,
give the opportunity.
right.
Okay. Paul, what do you think?
Yes. Just a couple thoughts. I think this is what you were saying, Daniel, is that we need to set a time limit. And included with that time limit, I would like opportunity for questions from us. And so we can either say, you got 10, 15 minutes to speak, and then as far as just breaking up the 90 minutes, 5 minutes for Q&A from us. I'm still thinking our general rule of thumb is the person at the podium is talking to the board. And it's not a discussion amongst everyone else.
Right.
Because that's when things tend
And I
to.
think we need to establish that too. If they come to the podium, they're addressing the chair.
We're the audience
Right.
if they're at the podium.
Yeah.
And that's our general rule of thumb. And so I believe we should set a time limit. What that is arbitrary. I don't want to make them feel like they're hemmed in. But I don't want, the State of the Union address either. And then I want to have opportunity to ask that person questions while they're at the podium, because I just may not remember afterwards.
Right.
If we do Q&A at the end, I think that will unnecessarily confuse me.
You want the Q and A for each individual.
Yeah, our questions back to them after they present happen after they speak.
Mhm.
So that when that person is done, we're done with them and they're done with all the information that they wanted to present.
I think that's much more fair to the people wanting to speak. I think part of the contention last meeting was the speakers weren't aware of how long they had to
Right.
speak, and they overplanned. I think having a set time that they know of ahead of time and being able to send us their information would make everything much more organized.
But in order to do that in an orderly fashion, we need to know how many.
Well, I mean, in order that everybody can speak that wants to speak, I think we ought to say 5 minutes. Because otherwise, people aren't going to get to speak. But we're going to be here past midnight. You know, in 5 minutes, you could get a lot in if you organize it. And then you still have another 5 minutes afterwards for us to ask questions, and you can add what you didn't get in your 5 minutes. So it'd be like a total of 10 minutes almost.
Can we ask a question to the audience out there?
Yeah.
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 So Ally's kind of the ringleader, so I'm gonna ask Ally.
Ally, can you come up to the podium?
Yeah, give us your suggestion on what you would want.
We're completely fine with that. I'd already talked to Richard about that, and we had kind of gone with 10 minutes, and we think that that's fair to keep your attention. We don't want to talk too long, but I kind of like the 5 minutes of saying something and then the questions, because
So
you
5 minutes
just said
to speak and then 5 minutes for us to ask a question.
correct, but you just said no dialogue at the very beginning of this, so that's kind of confusing us a little bit. If we're gonna have dialogue, that's
Yeah.
what we
Dialogue
prefer.
between us and the person at the podium.
Well,
Correct.
I think what you meant by dialogue is that means when you're up there, you have the dialogue, but when you're not up there, you don't have dialogue.
Right.
Yeah,
The only
because
time-
I got the
you know,
10 minutes and it was like go, and then it was just nothing, and then it just threw me off.
Yeah. And I apologize for that.
It's okay.
We'll move beyond that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're completely fine with 2 minutes.
Okay.
Or the 5 minutes and then 5 Q&A.
Okay. All right.
And we do plan on getting binders put together and presenting that to you beforehand.
Oh, awesome.
If they're going to present a speech, they'll have that written out. We'll have that in the binder. We'll have a quick resume of who is coming in, if it was a biologist, whoever it is. So now, with that being said, those are the people that I've been in contact with. So if there's someone from the audience that I didn't know was coming, I guess there's going to be others that I will not know about.
Right.
So I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Well, actually, we need to publish that to the public because there'll be other people who haven't ever been to
Right.
the meeting who will.
Right. The other side too. Yes.
Can you give me a rough idea of how many?
Yeah, Richard and I kind of talked about that briefly. He said keep it under around 60 minutes.
Yeah.
So that would only be 6 people, and
Will that work?
well, we were just hoping that they wouldn't use the
Yeah.
full 10 minutes,
Yeah.
and that we would get more people.
And we also have to consider the people who may want to speak from the other side. So,
Yes.
and we don't know how many are those. They're not quite as organized as you guys are. So it's kind of really hard for us to know.
Personally, I think if we get an hour and a half and the other side gets an hour and a half, we would probably use the full hour and a half, but not the other side.
So that brings up another question. Are we going to start at 7 like regularly, or are we going to start at 6?
I'm all for starting at 6 because it may be a long night. Are you guys okay with that?
I can do that.
Okay, I see heads.
I want to give residents of Linn County as much time as they need to tell us what they want to tell us.
Agreed.
I think it's our job to carve out the time to listen.
Okay, I'm a little slow on the draw here. November 14th, we've agreed to that. Start at 6, we've agreed to that. 5 minutes for each presenter, and with the 5 minutes for Q&A from the board. What else did we decide?
Get us materials, if possible, ahead of time.
Materials ahead of time. It would go to Darren.
If you want to speak, you have to come to the podium.
Come to the podium.
Come on up, come up to the podium.
What happens if we have like 150 people that are coming? I mean, it's open to the county. I just am,
Bring a lawn chair.
so I know. Well, because the only reason I asked is because when you did the winds, it was up in Lacine where you could accommodate people. I just need to know because there's a lot of people that want to come.
I don't know what fire code is.
That wasn't the win, that was the whole plan.
Okay, but everything was talked about was wind, but
Yeah.
there's one solar thing on there, but that's a moot
Packed
point.
house that night.
I don't want it to go late, but I'm just asking it, what happens if a lot of people show up?
If you wanna have it, that's someplace else.
And the only reason is because when we were supposed to meet or speak at planning and zoning, we had 70 people show up. And that was just for being on the agenda. For this, I'm just putting that out there for you to consider.
Is there another county building that has live stream that's large enough to accommodate?
Darren?
Not that I'm aware of, not that it has live stream.
About the courthouse. About the courthouse. I mean, not the courthouse.
The fair building?
The justice.
What about the fair building?
I don't know that. It
I
doesn't have,
don't know if the fair building has live
I don't
stream.
even know if it has Wi-Fi.
That's something that I guess, that's something that I'd have to get with Chris on, because I don't know how all that works. I just know how to push the button.
It's just something I want to put out. I'm not saying you have to make a decision now, but it's something you need to keep in the back of your mind because I know that a lot of people are interested in coming. For both sides, not just
Gotcha.
for us.
Okay. I've got on my list to work on a contingency plan that we'll just have to put together. But,
And you'll get a hold of her, so. Awesome. Thank you.
Rich, I'll ask them to put it tomorrow
okay.
about the live stream, and we can probably find a bigger venue. That's.
It's just about live streaming it. Yeah. Okay.
I know a guy on the school board that could probably twist his arm into talking him into using the school if we need to.
I was just going over the notes that David sent to me. I think we've got them all covered. Anything else on this issue?
So we were gonna ask people to let us know ahead of time if they wanted to register to talk, right?
We didn't actually
I'm
formally.
not saying it's mandatory though. That's what I'm wondering. I'm not clear on that. If we were saying
I
you
think,
have to get a hold of Darren and get your name on the list.
I think it would be beneficial if people would get a hold of Darren ahead of time. But I don't think I want to require that to be done. Just so, I think it just gives us a better idea of how many we've got.
Okay.
Come to the
Definitely
podium.
encouraged, but not mandatory.
Yeah, encouragement, not mandatory.
I know one of the concerns from the very beginning has been that
What's your name? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Celeste Porter, Paul's wife,
Where are you from?
yeah, Lacey.
Lexington? Okay.
But one of the concerns was that maybe not all the residents understood the meetings that occurred originally when you were doing the plan, the overall plan and the wind and solar regulations. So I just wondered if you wanted to have any discussion about making sure county residents knew about this opportunity, so you could have more people come, but to let them know.
That's why I think it should be in the papers.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was the first time. It was, it was mailed out to county residents, I think. So anyway, just how do you want to make sure that no one gets missed this time around? That's just my question.
The poll, the online poll was originally mailed out.
But you're really saying, how are we going to let the public know we're having this meeting?
Yes.
We'll work on that. I don't have a plan right now, but we'll work on that.
Something tells me it'll be front page of the newspaper.
Probably.
Well, you have to read the newspaper. So,
True.
and we've been finding out that I've had a lot of people talk to me and say, Rich, I really don't read newspapers. I need to have it on some social media.
Doesn't
So-
Linn County have a Facebook page? That someone could
Do we?
on the website. And
Yeah. I'll be the first to admit, we need to figure out better ways to stay in touch with the citizenry. All right. Any other issues on this? We're set for the 14th. You're going to start at 6, 5 minutes to speak, 5 minutes for question. Materials ahead of time if you can provide them. A list of people who know they want to talk ahead of time would be great. We're not going to require it. We're going to have a contingency plan for if we don't have enough room in this building. And we're going to work on figuring out how to inform the residents of Linn County that this is going on. A good plan?
Sounds good.
All right.
Very much.
All right. Any other concerns from the gallery? Okay, let's roll. Let's roll. Moving on to issue number 2, or the business business item number 2, Triple C Country Hookup, Inc. And would whoever's representing them come and identify yourself, tell us where you're from, and then let us know a brief background.
Okay. My name is Corey Merteza. and
I'm CC Stevenson. I'm from Pleasanton, Kansas.
Okay. And you're from
Here.
Pleasanton?
This is my sister.
Okay.
I'm here help representing Triple C Country Hookups. I'm his project manager, trying to get the project off the ground here. And basically, it's the business operation. We are trying to get 4 campsites with electric and water hookups at the site at the intersection of East 1150 and Scott Road. We want to have 2 ingress-egress entrance points off of one on each side of that intersection. These are gravel roads at this time. It's in a rural part of the area. We want to put 4 to 6 open-air stalls for horses that are available for travelers that come through the county for very overnight, very not extended stay, 1 to 2 nights as they're coming through. Do you want to explain the concept?
Just a place to park the horses overnight, get them out of the trailer. Give them a nice little place to put that horses.
Yeah.
Nothing big.
CC's a horseman and saw a need. He sees a lot of people, he ropes and has a lot of, sees the need for it in the county, in the area that he's in. It'll be owned and operated. He lives adjacent to the property where this will be located, so he'll be there pretty much around the clock with his livestock there. And then in the future, if the concept does take off and we find that we need a little bit more space, we might add an additional 2 campsites at some point to go to 6. We have enough room to do that if we'd need to. We would be marketing this to, VRBO, similar to like a VRBO, that you see on websites or whatever but geared towards horse people. To let them know-
VRBO, I don't know what that means.
Vacation rental, like internet
Oh, okay.
sites, like if you Airbnb. So it's not going to be mass marketed or anything. It's strictly to individuals that would know what it is and that it has horse availability for overnight stays there. We see it as a positive for the area. Casey's will get even more busy. So it has a positive impact to the area. We feel like it has a minimum impact to any of the services that are there. CC is there 24/7, so he will rough rider any kind of problems that we have down there. So we won't have to call anybody to help us, but if we need to, we would, and we'd make sure that we take care of the area and there's no problem. So if you have any questions, I put both of our contact information is on the back page of this, but we'll open it up to questions if any of you have any questions.
Commission, questions for the,
Yeah, I have a question. Have you talked to Rural Water 2 about the hookups?
I'm sorry, who?
Rural Water 2, I think you're in their district.
Yeah,
Yeah, you talked to them about the hookups?
yes.
Okay.
And Electric Heartland's been notified too. So they all gave us thumbs up.
Darren, do we have a site plan on here?
Yeah, it's in
Okay.
the folder.
It's what?
It's in the folder.
Okay.
You putting sewer dumps in?
Sorry.
Sewage dumps? For
No, we don't feel we need that for just an overnight.
Yeah, I didn't figure so. Okay.
any other questions?
I'm not quite sure what kind of road that is right in that area.
The one-
What kind of road is that surrounding your property? Is that a gravel. Do you anticipate any damage by trailers, or I don't know what size trailers you're?
Horse trailers mainly,
Yeah, just
Two
like your
snakes,
your
right?
basic 2-horse ones or 3-4, yeah.
so
They don't do much damage.
I don't think there should be any damage to it. It's just pickups and trailers.
Yeah. What's out there now? It wouldn't be anything other than that.
I was just thinking like a bigger, like 10-horse stock trailers or something like that, that gets a little heavy and kind of is, I don't know how that would affect a gravel road.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it would be any more than the common traffic that's down through there right now, running horse trailers and cattle trailers.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Darren, where are you, Darren? Can you get the staff report? Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So there's two deals that go with it. There's a rezoning and the conditional use permit. I'm going to give the rezoning. I would prefer if you waited to vote for the rezoning until you hear the conditional use permit, because the rezoning may not need to be done. Case number Z23-06 Triple C hookups, Pleasanton, Kansas, commonly addressed as 20018 East 1150 Road. Applicant has asked for rezoning of 2 acres for purpose of a conditional use permit. Under current zoning residential, the parcel requires rezoning to commercial. A boundary line adjustment has been done to increase the property to approximately 2 acres and was taken out of the adjoining property that they already own. Staff recommendation and findings. The proposed zoning change conforms to the characteristics of the neighborhood by providing the combined usage, neighboring agricultural zone properties and are of large size. Property is suitable for permitted use for the proposed commercial zoning and will not negatively affect nearby properties. The proposed rezoning of the land creates no change or effect of the surrounding properties and not create any additional infrastructure needs. The proposed change conforms to the comprehensive plan by allowing more land to be kept in large agricultural parcels and not changed to a residential designation. The standards that should apply are listed in Article 20 and with proper findings as required in Golden versus the City of Overland Park, staff recommends approval of the application.
Questions for Darren?
Yeah, Darren, is that property fenced or is gonna be fenced?
It's fenced now, and they're actually moving the fences to meet the new boundary line adjustment to the 2 acres. It's actually, the property right now is just a hair under an acre. And they've taken another acre or so out of their adjoining farm to increase the size of this property.
Steel pipe fenced it. We've gone ahead and steel pipe fenced the entire boundary.
When do they hope to have this in operation?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
When do you hope to have this in operation?
As soon as we get approval.
Can I go ahead with?
Yeah.
Case number CUP 23-05 Triple C hookups. Requested action, recreation area and campground. Notice was properly posted in the official county newspaper on September 20th, 2023. In addition, notice was sent to owners of all properties within 1,000 feet pursuant to the state law and the Linn County zoning regulations. Most adjoining properties is agricultural. The subject property is currently zoned as residential and used for grazing ground. Proposed use could be defined as a service or commercial use of the current plan and allow for them to be placed in the rural area of the county. After careful review of potential impacts on existing roads and infrastructure, the proposed area is suitable for the purpose of the application. It would therefore take little land out of agricultural use. The application can meet the setback requirements. All necessary notifications to surrounding landowners has been properly made by United States Postal Service and publication of notice of hearing in the official county newspaper. The applicant has increased the property to 2.5 acres by an approved boundary line adjustment. The property of increased with property that they already owned that surrounds it. They are asking for a conditional use permit to operate a campsite area with a building with horse stalls and the ability to store hay. The applicant is putting in power hookups for up to 6. So they're asking for 6 places. They said 4, but they're actually asking for 6. That way they can add a couple more at a future date without having to come back to revise the application. So that campers and horse trailers could stay overnight. The applicant has said on the application that the stay would be 1 to 2 nights. With the short stays, they would rather not put in sanitation system. Campers have black water tanks installed on them. Staff is okay with no sanitation requirements. If it was to become a problem, code enforcement will step in and resolve the problem. In an actual RV park, the regulations say they can be 20 parking spots in 5 acres. That is 4 slots per acre. This is a reduction of that and would be 3 slots per acre. Staff findings. The use does conform with the character of the neighborhood, as most properties are agricultural with residential and industrial. The zoning of nearby properties is agricultural. The property is suitable for proposed use. The proposed use does not appear to detrimentally affect nearby properties. Property will be rezoned as commercial property. The proposed use would not detrimentally affect the public health, safety, and welfare, and would benefit public welfare by providing a boost to local economy. The requested CUP conforms to the Linn County Comprehensive Plan. At this time, staff recommends approval of this conditional use permit with proper findings as required in Golden versus the City of Overland Park.
Questions for Darren?
Have you thought about conditions?
I haven't. I mean, I thought about it, but I couldn't come up with any.
I mean, I'm thinking lighting, maybe.
Okay, hang on, let me get to that.
How close is the closest residence besides his? Oh, I'm sorry, closest residence.
Be on the corner of Scott Road.
About how far?
What's that, right side?
Okay.
Next to Jackson Road.
How far is that?
I think that's less,
Still,
Yeah, they did.
so the lighting, I was just thinking about noise, just different conditions like that. Anybody else have any?
I think you could put a condition of like a shutdown time
Like,
as far as noise or quiet,
Out.
quiet time.
right. Okay. We haven't asked about the audience, if anybody is opposed to it.
I'm
Okay,
waiting.
well, I mean,
It's just-
before we did conditions, I thought maybe we should do that.
Darren, you want to step down and is there anybody from the gallery that wants to speak on this issue? If so, please come forward now. Seeing none? Carry on. Questions? Other questions?
I mean, that's what you,
Darren, let me make sure I got this right. You want us to really approve this in tandem, the CUP and the rezoning.
Yeah, if you don't approve the conditional use permit, there's no reason to rezone the property.
So one motion with both these elements would,
I need a motion for each application. I
okay,
need a motion to rezone and then a motion for the conditional use permit.
okay.
And so it does need to be rezoned.
Yeah, what's the gating issue on rezoning? Why is it forced?
Because it's residential land. What they're asking for is not allowed in a residential district.
And it would be changed to commercial.
Correct.
Do I hear a motion for the rezoning issue?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to accept the rezoning to a
Commercial.
commercial. Second, we got the second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstainers, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Now I'm looking for another motion.
Okay, well, we gotta think about conditions. That's why we're doing a conditional use permit, conditional use permit.
Okay?
So,
So I've got lighting, hours of quiet time.
and what would those be? What would you think of those be?
So just a comparison to what like the lake communities have is 10 o'clock during the week and 11 o'clock on weekends.
What do you think?
I think that's pretty standard at most campgrounds, right?
We're not looking for any wild parties. Certain night-
Wild?
Mostly 55 won't sleep for time.
So that would be okay with you if we put 10 on weekdays and 11 on weekends? Weekends being Friday and Saturday night?
Yes.
They're wanting to get up and go rowing next morning, so we're not doing that. Let's-
Other questions,
Any other?
comments toward conditions?
Was there something specific about the lighting that we wanted?
I think the entrance should be lighted somehow. The entrance and the exit needs to be lighted somehow.
With like low level lighting?
Yes. And probably, I don't know if you would light each campsite because if there's a camper there, they're going to have their own lights. And maybe, I'm sure that they probably will so they can see, but lights on the barn. And I say barn, he's talking small, not a barn, but a,
Yeah, we talked about the lighting, mainly because it's a very rural area. It is very, very dark down there at night. We actually had this discussion a couple days ago about what are we gonna do about this? We don't want people not to be able to see, but we also don't want people not to be able to go to sleep. So, I mean, you had some thoughts about what to do.
The yard lights that they normally put out in the area for football.
Maybe in the center. And then make sure each of the entrances are we don't want anybody going off in the ditch either.
Right.
So. Make sure those are marked.
And I know we asked about fencing, but can we just put that in the conditional use permit that it will be fenced? Just throw this out because, I mean.
Just so it stays
Just-
fenced.
Fencing include
I'm
gated?
sorry. Huh?
Does fencing include gated?
Not necessarily.
So we're fencing between the two properties, not,
I imagine they'd have a gate on it, you've got horses there.
well, I'm assuming there's a corral, but I just want to be clear what we're asking for. Are we asking for the whole thing to be enclosed in a fence with gates on both entrances? Or are we asking them to have a corral for the horses and a property line fence
So right now, the whole property's fenced.
The 2 acres is bounded.
So
Yeah,
we could put that in the conditions without having any problem, okay?
right.
And you could have one of those called, like a cattle guard at the gate, something.
Charlene, would you put this into a motion?
I don't know. Ah. Okay, as I go along, tell me if you don't agree with this, okay? So I'm talking about lighting, and we're talking about like something at both entrances or exits, okay? Then you said something about in the middle.
I'm sorry.
I thought you said something about in the middle of putting a
There's
street
an
light.
intersection where 1150 and Scott Road are, we talked about maybe on the corner there to make sure that's delineated and making it big, large enough that it would at least get ambient light over the whole campsite. And then making sure both the entrances are lit and well marked. And we think that with that, between that and then all the individual campers, that would give it enough light to be safe in there, for people to get around and not have to take any kind of a security or danger issue.
Okay,
We feel like, and if it isn't, then we'll work through that as we go, and if it isn't, we'll make sure it is. We'll make sure it's okay.
so that and the hours.
10 o'clock during the week and 11 o'clock on Saturdays and Sundays, or Fridays and
Fridays
Saturdays.
and Saturdays, I think, yeah, okay, is that okay?
So 10 on the weeknights and then 11 on the weekends, Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday, yeah,
Okay.
And fenced.
and fenced.
Do you want to put an until time? Like 10 to 6,
Oh,
10 to,
yeah, we need it.
They'll probably be taking off early, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 10 to 6?
yeah, I don't think, at this location, I don't think they're going to disturb anybody.
Okay, I didn't know, I mean, I still have a picture of exactly where the next residence is. Okay,
There's not one shown on the plat they sent out,
Right,
so
right.
it's a ways away.
The house is built near its flood.
okay, okay.
So do we all have the elements of the motion that Charlene articulated?
Well, if we don't, I'm sure Jared has it recorded.
And I've got those too.
I
So,
have it recorded.
so the conditions are lighting entrance and exit, lighting in the middle to illuminate site, hours of quiet time, weekdays 10 to 6, weekends 11 to 6, and fencing around the full 2 acres.
Good. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstainers, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Good luck. Yeah.
Thank you. Have fun.
All right. Old business, Regina's Rescue. Darren, would you like to give us an update on issues with that?
Yeah, hang on just a second. I need to grab the folder. Regina's Rescue, it's conditional use permit number 23-01. This has been tabled since February 14th, waiting on a reply from the state with the license. The license came due at the end of September. Regina came in and got a building permit and sanitation permit. She has started construction on the building. The permit has been included in the file that you have received. She has stated that it should be done at the end of October or the 1st of November. Mr. Lancaster, which is the state inspector, stated that the building would have to be climate controlled and have exhaust fans in the facility. He also stated that a concrete floor was not necessary as long as they had proper waste management. Staff feels that if you allow this conditional use permit, that a concrete floor should be required, with proper drains for each stall connected to properly installed sanitation. Staff went out and met with Ben Lancaster at the first part of September when the state done their inspection. He made several comments about feces piled up outside of the kennels. He stated that the wind block on the outdoor pens was unsatisfactory. Mr. Lancaster said that these are reoccurring items that he finds every time he comes out. I had to leave before the inspection was done due to another meeting that I had to attend. On October 5th, I spoke with Ben Lancaster about the inspection of Regina's rescue. She received an unsatisfactory again on the inspection. They have not revoked the license yet because they are waiting for their legal team to make some decisions. Mr. Lancaster stated that the legal team was way behind in their work. She is still able to operate until the legal team makes their decision. Mr. Lancaster said that they would probably make a limit on the number of animals she could have if they decide not to revoke the license. He also said that they would take into consideration recommendations by Linn County if the CUP was approved. Staff feels that they are waiting to see what the county's decision is. Staff recommends, based on the inability to pass inspection, staff feels that at this time it cannot be passed until the state has made a determination on the status of her license. There have been too many failed inspections with the state and the same reoccurring failed inspections. The staff would recommend that she come back after the state makes their decision. The state also said that if they revoke her license, she can reapply with the state in the future, and if she has the new facility set up to their standards, at that point she can come back and reapply with the county.
Thank you, Darren. Questions for Darren?
Sounds a little like catch-22. I mean, you felt like the state's waiting on us and we're wanting to,
And we're waiting on them.
okay, I just want to make sure if I understood that part.
Why do we have to be in that position? Why did the two have to dictate from one to the other? Why can't we just make a decision and then let the state do what they want to do?
It's based on the number of dogs and the regulations. The county only allows 4 dogs to a property, to a parcel. So the state allows 19 dogs to a parcel. So if we say she can have 19, she's in violation of our regulations, which would require her to get a state issued license.
But we could grant it based on the requirement that she gets a state issued license, right?
And at this point, yes.
Okay, that was my question. So
But-
we can put that condition in there, say we'll give it to you, but you have to get a state issued license.
Well, there's another issue because the state's allowing her to operate right now until they make a decision whether they're going to revoke it or not.
I understand, but we don't have any.
She's in violation of the county regulations.
But also, most of our conditional use permits are on, we require that they have a state permit, no matter what it is, whether it's a quarry or whether it's a kennel or whether it's anything. We
Kitchen.
require the state that they follow the state regulations.
Understand, but we can make that a condition though, right? Not, does everyone have it before they come and apply for a conditional use permit
Most people have their licensing set in place.
prior to coming in?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Darren, I can't think of an incident in the last 3 years where that hasn't been the case. I mean, they've always done this stuff with the state.
I can only speak for the last year and a half, and yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's, Charlene, you've got probably more time.
I mean, I always think they have the license ahead of time. I mean, this is an issue, I think that we all want you to be there, but we need for you to pass the inspection. So, huh?
Let's, you have to be recognized to come to the podium to talk, so.
Regina doesn't like to come up.
So, further discussion.
Well, question about the license. There's one right here in here. So,
Right, but it stands to be revoked per my conversation with the state.
It was the one that was good till September 30th.
Yeah, expires. I got you. I didn't see the expiration.
Other questions for Darren? The question to the commission, do you want to have Regina come to the podium and ask her questions?
I think she has an attorney here, doesn't she?
I'm here for Mr. Campbell.
Oh, okay. Come on up.
Is that all right with the board? Tell us who you are and where you're from.
My name is Jennifer Dulski. I'm the founder and director of Always and Forever Midwest Animal Sanctuary in Miami County. I have worked with Regina personally over the past 4.5 years. So advocate, friend, also an attorney to help you.
Thank you.
What can I answer? Here's what I can tell you since it's quiet. When you don't have a shelter and we don't have the means to have a building to house the animals, your hands are truly tied. So what she's dealing with is helping the stray and unwanted population of your county's animals to the best of the ability that she can. Now she's working with the state. Now these inspections, sometimes they're always unprompted. So they're always unscheduled. So whether or not it's on her cleaning and feeding schedule depends on when they show up. So the fact that there is a reoccurrence of finding feces, if it's not in her schedule, that's actually pretty common if it doesn't fall into that shelter's schedule. And that's where you take the time and you work with the state and you talk to them about your procedures. But you can get dinged on these reports. So it's not uncommon, and that doesn't speak against to how she cares for these animals.
Well, the license that was in here says is expired. So can you speak to that? Is there?
Did they come out yesterday?
State talking about revoking it. Where do you guys stand?
It's expired September 30th, 2024. So we have
2024, I got a new license.
we have a new
Oh,
license
it says
right
24.
here.
I got you. I
You'd
missed
like
that
to
part.
see it? Yeah.
And Ben was out yesterday. I knew he was going to show up. And we're becoming good friends. And we passed inspection. It was unsatisfactory for two things, because we had a wire that was sticking out of a kennel and some rust on another kennel. That's it.
Now, those two things would
In
be
an outside kennel, it's
Yeah.
going to happen.
that would be mitigated if she is permitted to put up this new shelter, which is where she's seeking this conditional use
Right.
permit to take that next step to avoid some of these problems that she's getting dinged on during these inspections. Now, there is no question as to her heart and soul with the taking care of these animals. Are the current means to the standards that you want? No, that's why we're here tonight. That's why
I want those kennels gone. I want a building.
that's why this is the next step to do it better.
So who was out on the inspection yesterday?
Ben Lancaster was
Ben
there
Lancaster,
yesterday.
Same guy in the other
Yeah.
report.
Darren, when did you talk to Ben?
Last Thursday.
Yeah, so that would make sense that you weren't updated yet.
Right. And he came out because somebody complained. Again, they complained that we're not feeding our dogs properly. Really?
And that's common practice. So every shelter has a different practice. You feed them once a day or feed them twice a day. What matters is that you have a policy and procedure in place as to what works for your animals with the best care that you see fit. And that's where when Ben comes out, she sits with him, she walks him through the procedures, and then, but you never know when an inspection comes, which is why there can be different reports of feces repeatedly if it's at a time that doesn't coincide with your cleaning schedule. And if you take the time and you walk someone through that, they truly do understand.
Other questions?
So since you passed the inspection, does that mean that you now have a license, or is that
Yes.
still pending?
I have a license.
Okay.
Mhm.
So wasn't that our sticking point? Does she have a
Mhm.
license?
It was.
So we're no longer waiting on the state? Is that what I'm hearing?
We're no longer waiting on the state. Okay, so was the state waiting on us for anything?
They were waiting to see if they had recommendations.
Yeah, we're going to give you a copy of the license there. With respect to recommendations, I mean, it would be my thought that said to go forward with this conditional use permit in compliance that she would go with any of the conditions that the state would require with respect to her license. Very common in animal rescue. If you run a shelter with more than 19 animals, then you actually get the designation of animal shelter. If it's less, in Kansas, you're a rescue network license. So it truly depends on the facility. I think, how many animals do you have on your land that you want to have?
We want to get
Max
down.
capacity.
We can have up to 60. That's what they tell us. We don't want that many.
So when you're applying for this, how many animals would you like to have?
I
guess
would
that's
like,
the
we want to
question.
get down to 40 dogs. 40
Is that
dogs.
what you want in the permit?
How many are on right now?
We're at 50.
So we would say right now, no more than 50 animals to cap
That
it where
includes
she.
your- includes your private dogs?
No, that's not my private dog. There are sanctuary dogs. They cannot be rehomed anywhere because of the abuse they've been through. So they're going to stay with me forever.
So no more than 50 adoptable
Right.
animals.
Right.
So Darren, with this new information, does that change your recommendation to us?
So my recommendation, I want to talk to Ben Lancaster with the state, and hear what he has to say. But my original recommendation was to approve with a bunch of conditions.
And I think we're open to hearing conditions. I would just ask that it is considerable time to keep coming back with that respect and put the same issue in front over and over again. But those conditions would be embedded into her license that she would have to carry forward. With respect to a conditional use permit, we would ask you to consider 50 animals, hard cap there.
Right.
Has to be in compliance with the state. Hard stop there. So if she fails, she loses her license, you would revoke the CUP. I mean,
Right.
it would not affect one or the other.
Right. The Planning and Zoning Commission can put conditions on it that are stricter than the state's.
True.
So that,
But that's what I'm saying. If you have wanted to talk to the state, those would already be embedded into that.
So let's pause for a minute, let you two have a seat. We may call you back. We also need to hear from the gallery to see if there's opposition. So have a seat. We may ask you to come back. Anybody from the gallery wants to speak to this issue?
I'm on the agenda. Mr. Chairman, members of the board of the Planning Commission, as I'm sitting here listening to this, I had all this written out, what I wanted to say. And first, I want to address some comments, of course, to the Planning Commission. My name is Sheila Schultz, SCHULTZ. I'm an attorney. I have my office in Paola. It is Sheila Schultz Law. I've been in practice for, 30 years now. I represent Mr. Unsatisfactory. She said, well, I passed. Is an unsatisfactory a pass? I don't think so. She also said that she knew they were going to show up that day, yet there was stacks of feces, and that was the reason that she didn't pass. This is a residential area that she's asking for a conditional use permit in that area, at rural residential. There is part of their, on the side that is owned by Mr. Schmidt, or Smith, I'm sorry, which is it? Schmidt. They're like 15 to 25 feet away from the property line, okay? So if you have feces stacked up, and that's why she's not passing it, that's a problem. Heart and Soul just didn't get us where we need to be. Heart and Soul didn't get that feces cleaned up. I thoroughly believe that Regina's Rescue and the young lady that talked with her, it's all about their heart and soul. This is their life. I thoroughly believe that. But when the state is coming in repeatedly telling you that this is unsatisfactory, how do you tell the landowners in that area that it should be passed? And then we're talking about also tabling it again.
these landowners in this area can do nothing with their property until this is done. This started in February. There's another meeting in July. She had another unsatisfactory inspection of when she knew that they were going to show up, when she knew that there was going to be this meeting. So if there's feces being stacked up when she knows that there's an inspection, what happens at other times? I want to.
What we've heard is we've heard from neighbors about barking.
Yes, and I want to speak to that. Even, I looked at every bit of the notes, and even the notes that said, and I'm sorry, I don't know the individual's name, I just know it's Regina's Rescue. So if I don't refer to it as name, I apologize. Even in the notes, he said, yes, there is noise from time to time. Mr. Wilson went out at one time and he said, they calmed down after 10 minutes. But if they are disturbed and have it to take 10 minutes every time the neighbors are waiting for that, how many times does that occur a day? And the comment was made, yes, by Regina's Rescue itself, Mr. McClellan, and I'm sorry if that is not correct, I apologize, himself, he said, yes, they're noisy from time to time, but they quiet down at night. If you were the neighbor, would you want to hear that all day long? I don't think so. Just Monday, a salesman came to Mr. Kemper's place. He said, what in the world is that noise? It was the dogs barking again. We talk about, and I looked at your notes and I wanted to go over them. See if we ever got any answers on any of these. May I approach you all and give you some paperwork that I pulled out of here?
Sure.
This is Exhibit A and B that I had. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I want to address the Exhibit A first. And that was a letter that was presented at the July 11th meeting specifically. And there was some conversation about this letter and why it happened. And I wanted to address the board that when you walk in here to this meeting, you get a sense of democracy at work. That everybody gets to voice what they want to voice, and you as a board make a decision. That's democracy at work. Other democracy at work is if there's a Kansas Department of Health and Environment, they have a complaint department. And you get to go make a complaint to that department when things aren't good. They have it. It's all right. I'm surprised it's not me, so you're okay. So there was some to do about this. It helps me, you're fine. There was some to do about this letter and why Mr. Kemper would be making complaints to the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. He didn't. I called the Kansas Department of Health and Environment and said, why does everybody think Mr. Kemper made complaints? Even though it's his democratic right to do so, why does everybody think he's making complaints? And why in the community are we making him out to be a bad guy? She said, well, I don't know. And I said, well, why? And she said, all the records at the Kansas Department of Health and Environment are confidential. Nobody knows who makes reports. Nobody. So when a letter is written to disregard everything that Mr. Kemper and Mr. Schmidt said, that's against the whole process entirely. We all get to say what we want to say. So I don't know why this letter was brought up, but there was lots to do about it. Mr. Kemper did not make a complaint. And even if he did, it would have been confidential and nobody could have known that. So then we start talking about 55 animals or 50 animals or whatever. In January 12th, Exhibit B, January 12th, Regina's Rescue made a Facebook page posting that said we have 95 animals now. What happened between January 12th and February 14th, your first meeting, where there was only supposed to be 50 to 55 animals? We have 95 now. Now, I want to get to some of the questions that were asked at your prior meeting that haven't seemed to have been answered even yet. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe they have been.
I have a question first
Sure.
about this letter, Exhibit A. I don't understand, you're talking about, complaint about the health department, but this letter is referencing the Department of Agriculture.
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question, sir.
I thought that the context of this letter was a complaint directed towards the Department of Agriculture. I'm not understanding the context where you're talking about a complaint for the health department.
To the Kansas Department, KDHE, Department of
Right.
Agriculture. Yes, I'm sorry, I misspoke, the Department of Agriculture, excuse me.
Right.
But this letter
I can
was put,
understand that the health department would have confidential records, but I don't,
I'm sorry, I called the Kansas Department of Agriculture, the same person on that letter.
okay.
I misspoke. Thank you for clarifying that. I called Nicole Costanza of the Kansas Department of Agriculture. I said, why would they say that Mr. Kemper made complaints? They said, I don't know, because everything is confidential. But they have a complaint department, and why wouldn't he be able to? But that letter was included in her packet as, for some reason, I guess, to say somebody didn't have a right to make complaints, even when they didn't, and even when the information would have been confidential. Thank you for clarifying that. I talked to the Kansas Department of Agriculture. So we talked about 55 dogs, and then on January 12th, there was the 95. Also in some of on the February 14th and July 11th, it was, Regina's Rescue was asked for their 501c3 or 3C. I don't know which one it is. I believe it's 3C for the financial records. As far as we know, they haven't been produced. They're public records. Also at those meetings, it was asked to produce their financial records so we could see that they had the money to do the things that they're talking about. That was asked at both the February 14th and the July 11th. Do they have the records to support the size of what they're trying to do? We still don't know. At least I don't have the records and didn't see that they were ever produced. We can go a lot on hearsay, or we can produce the records.
Can I ask, who were you asking for the financial records?
You all
You
asked.
for it? Okay.
You all asked for it.
All right.
I don't remember that.
I think that might have been a public comment. I don't know whether we as a board asked for that.
I don't think
Because I don't think we're
her
really
ability to
allowed
afford it has anything to do with it.
We don't ask for that for other people, from other people.
If someone is saying that they have enough money to do this, this, and this, you have a right to say, give us the financial records to say, particularly when it's a 501.
But I don't think we did that. Do you remember, Darren? You don't remember, or you don't?
I don't remember the board asking.
I don't think we did.
It was in the minutes, that's all I know. Great Plains SPCA says it costs $350 to $400 per animal per year. If you have 50 animals and you turn over 4 times a year of those 50 animals, you can see that that's extremely costly. Has there been any proof shown that they can support that type of thing? There was a comment that was made by Regina's Rescue that, well, they hoped that certain things happened. They hoped they would get this money donated to them. They hoped that they would get enough people to make contributions. Well, a business plan just isn't built on hope. It's built on having the money to sustain the thing that you're doing. And if we have a problem that they even spoke to earlier, that we hope we have more people to come and help on this situation. Again, I was talking about Mr. Schmidt's property line is about 15 to 25 feet from where Regina's Rescue has things. You even request on a solar panel for a solar tower, your own rules say 500 feet.
So do you represent Mr. Schmidt also?
No, I'm just making points of how things seem to be a little, if you're going to make those rules on a solar panel, that all it does is stand there, you have something that's making noise, you have something that's smelling, and it's about 25 feet from a property line. Just to make everyone know, for sure, there's been rumors going around. No one wants to build any sort of hunting business, hunting club. No one wants to do anything like this. While this request for a CUP was going on, I would think that would be the time when the property would be at its cleanest. Yet we had the state come in and we had a negative finding of piled up feces.
Ms. Schultz, in the interest of everybody having an opportunity to talk on this, it sounds like we're going to have a lot of issues on this. I'd like to ask you if you can kind of wrap this up so we have.
Sure, but yeah, everybody should be given an opportunity to speak, certainly. This has been going on since February of 23. These people can't do anything with their property. We have another unsatisfactory inspection. We have 55 versus 95 animals. People are limbo with their property. Pictures were requested of the property. Have we ever had any pictures of that? Have we ever had a site plan, setbacks, waste disposal plan? That was requested at the July 11th meeting. That was requested by the board. I just, it's great. I think an animal place is great, but we have to think of all of these things. And property values are definitely going to go down. Everybody wants the rescue, but think about the people in the neighborhood and how it is zoned at this particular time. There was stated that there was a grant to build the building. Do you have any other information with regard to that? Do you have your architectural drawings? Do you have any of those things? A for sale sign was put up on the property directly after the last meeting, and then it was removed. Let's talk about policing. How much money is the county willing to spend to police these areas? You say, okay, we're going to issue it, even though the state says you're unsatisfactory. Every time these people go to sell their property, they say, oh, by the way, there's a conditional use permit that the state says is unsatisfactory right next door. And I have to tell you that. I have to tell you that because that's how the laws of the real estate go. How much money is the county willing to pay? I'm well aware, given what I've done in the past for this community, I'm well aware that that has been a huge issue for this community to get a code enforcement officer. How much money are you willing to spend to have a code enforcement officer go out there as many times as they need to go out there to police this conditional use permit? Thank you. Any more questions? I'm sorry.
Questions for Ms. Schultz?
Could we get a brief chance for rebuttal?
I'm sorry?
Could we get a brief chance to rebuttal? There were quite a few statements that.
Yeah. Thank you. And this is the time where we make calls to the gallery for comments. So.
Yeah, I'd like to address a couple of the issues you brought up.
Just give us your name and where you're from and who you represent.
I'm Michael McClellan. I'm Regina's husband.
Okay.
I'm the chief shoveler there. So any piles are my fault. But during the day, the people that help us, I have them pile stuff up, and I go around with my lawnmower and my wagon, and I pick it all up. And it gets all picked up by the end of the day. So depending, like was mentioned earlier, depending on the time of the day that the inspector shows up, And we don't know when that inspector's going to show up. We anticipated, that he was going to show up because we've heard complaints and rumors and whatnot. And we've seen that inspector way more. I know more about that inspector than I know. He's also mentioned that he knows us way too well already, because he's been out there so often. But the little piles that are there, sometimes there's a wheelbarrow, sometimes there's my wagon, and sometimes there's flies running around it, and it all gets cleaned up before the end of the day. We've been battling rain and wind and cold and heat for all these animals, and we do our best through these battles to keep all these critters warm and happy and healthy, and they are. One of the complaints was that we had sick dogs on the property, and that was unfounded. There was a issue about food that we weren't feeding our dogs. That was unfounded. We depend upon donations. This little thing that we started years ago has blown up because of the need for it in this county. And it's not just this county. We get them from Miami County, Bourbon County, all the counties around. We've even gotten some that wind up coming from Wichita, just in a kill shelter or something that somebody winds up saving, and a group of people get together and yo-yo that dog to someplace safe, and someplace that doesn't kill the animal. We are 100% no kill. The critters that can't be rehomed, like Regina said, are going to stay with us forever. Some of the issues are all going to be, a lot of these issues are going to be fixed when we get our building up and we're allowed to put the animals in there. That's going to take care of a lot of the noise issue. We've also been working on the noise issue. We found, we're not sure what it is, but over Rancho Way, we came across a place that has a grass that's humongously high. I don't know what it is, but it's a real thick grass and it grows quick. And if we get 2 or 3 feet of that around the area, we can immediately, within a year or so, with the grass grow, we can immediately help cut down any noise that there is for 10 or 15 minutes every now and then.
Let me interrupt you and say,
Sure.
in the interest of time, questions from the commission.
So I have a question about the state said that you would need a climate controlled building with exhaust fans. Are you going to be able to?
Oh, yeah, that's part of the whole building plan.
And is your floor going to be concrete or not concrete?
We're working on that. We want to get it concrete, of course, but it's a matter of money right now. We've got the building money. It's going up. The electric and water, and we're working on all that. The concrete is a formidable issue, and we're working on that. But in the meantime, there's some plans on how to deal with that in the meantime.
Other questions from the board?
How long have you been in operation?
I think about 8 years, and we've never heard anybody have come to us for complaints. And we welcome that. We welcome anybody to come check our place out. We got happy, healthy. Some of them are a little overly healthy, but and if there's a sick dog, it goes to the vet, and So really, I guess that's all I got.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else from the gallery?
My name's Kelly Satchel. I'm from Parker. I've known Regina for a number of years, and before Regina's rescues opened up, we had stray dogs, stray cats, stray kittens, stray puppies that were dying because there was nobody to take care of them. Ms. Schultz asked about the cost of a code enforcement. How much more would an animal control and a location for the animals be? Not to mention the vet bills. And God forbid it was a kill shelter where after so many days, you sent them to be euthanized. That would cost probably way more than a code enforcer. I don't know how much those cost. In regards to the dogs barking, how many of us have neighbors that have dogs that bark all night at the coyotes and stuff? Or if you live in town? That's a normal thing. I know a lot of dogs make a lot of noise. I've been out there. 10 minutes of barking. Yes, it can be annoying. That's why Regina has posted asking people to schedule to come out there instead of just showing up. That way there's kind of a more controlled timing on it. So you don't have somebody coming at 1 o'clock, 1:15, 1:30 and having them go all day long. So she does try to negate that. And with the animal smells, I'm sorry, but if you live next to somebody that has cows, you have smells. If you live next to somebody that has horses, you have smells. Goats have a smell, llamas. Any animal place is going to have smells. But when I'm out there, I don't get hit in the face with dog scent. You know, it's not an offensive place to go to. It's not like driving past some of the feedlots where you're going, oh my gosh. So just, you know, something to think about. What would we do if we did not have this shelter? What would these animals in Linn County and the other counties do? Because we don't have a pound. We don't have animal control. I've called Linn County Sheriff previously. They can't do anything. I've called Parker Police. I live out in the country. They can't do anything. What's going to happen to those animals? They're going to get killed by coyotes or die of starvation or something, hypothermia, whatever. It's not fair to them. They need a chance to live also. They didn't ask to be disposed of by somebody.
Question to commissioners. I'm getting to the point where we've been doing this for 3 sessions or more. I think I've heard every angle on this thing before. Do you want to hear from more people?
Well, if they had another rebuttal, one more.
All right. Okay, and that will be it.
Things that were mentioned with respect to unsatisfactory, it's important to know that the Department of Agriculture has 2 gradings, satisfactory and unsatisfactory. So if you're dinged for one thing, you can get that unsatisfactory rating. That does not mean that it's an unsatisfactory shelter. It gives you an opportunity to make amends, fix it, and then they come back. Something was noted with respect to they knew he was coming. You never know when they're coming. And like I explained, it really does depend on the shelter and the feeding and the cleaning, which I think you described pretty well. Another thing that was brought up was 95 animals. Very important to know that you can have 200 to 300 to 400 animals in your care at one time, but that does not mean that there's not 50 animals that could be capped on her property because you have fosters in your care, because you have forever fosters. So at one point, a year and a half ago, to the statement that was made, literally we worked together as 2 separate rescues and took in a rescue that dissolved, but it was horrific hoarding situation. So we took 100 animals in at a separate facility. So both of our numbers skyrocketed up, and without us being able to step in. Now that would have no effect on this conditional use permit. So if you're spending time watching her Facebook page, that's not truly relevant to what is going on the property, which you have the authority to grant and monitor. Would you need a code monitor? Absolutely not. That's what the state is. That's why anytime a neighbor is so inclined, even with no provocation, could call the state and they show up no matter what. So it doesn't matter if it was a true or accurate occurrence. If someone has a vendetta against you and you run a rescue, they can call every single week. This happens at every single rescue and shelter. So is that a reflection upon Regina's? I don't think so, just because I know it happens in ours. Some things that you could do by approving this conditional use permit, and if cement floors, really are a factor, require it. Okay. Another thing, she's open to putting a dumpster on the property. If they don't like the feces there, then you put the feces in there and then it's removed. That's where you can get creative and talk about what are the solutions, because the benefits are so good. Because the sheriff department even brings the animals to her, because without her, dogs and cats run the streets and they die. They literally die. There is no one else for this county but Regina's, and she's been there. And she's been regulated by the state, and they're willing to do whatever it takes. Now, someone said financials, financials, financials. Everything is built off hope and a dream. And you put it out there for the donors to believe in them. And this whole county supports her in what she's doing. And all she's asking for is a chance to keep doing the good that she's doing with the restrictions that you put in place to keep saving your county's animals. And that's it. Just work with her to get her there. The building is up. We will get the funding. Put your faith in us. Put the regulations around it. We'll agree to that and we will follow it. And if we don't follow it, take the CUP away. And then the state stops. It all stops. But give her a chance to keep saving lives, because without her, the animals will die. And I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Commission. This is the third meeting that we've dealt with this issue. We need to,
Changes every time. I mean, yeah, we have a permit.
so what's the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to make a motion to grant the permit based on the conditions that Darren wants. That he had recommended a concrete floor or whatever else he had.
Do you have a time period for the concrete floor?
All open for debate. It's not required by the state.
Right.
We acknowledge that. Darren feels like that we should have it. I would say if they had a concrete floor within the next year, if it's not required by the state and we're asking for it, I think we need to give them time to fund it and do it.
So I found my notes from the first meeting. The conditions that were actually talked about was building to be completed in a timely fashion set by P&Z Commission, sanitation installed for indoor runs, screening around fence of outdoor pens, setbacks of outdoor pens from property lines was discussed, but there was no numbers set. Periodical inspections by county to check if meets conditions set forth by Planning and Zoning Commission, number of dogs, including sanctuary dogs and personal dogs, all tied to one number. And that's what was discussed at the very beginning.
So those are Darren's.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah. I mean, is there anything you don't want on that list? Or is that pretty inclusive?
Well, yeah, I think there should be a setback from the property line. I don't know. Is that in our regulations for kennels?
There's nothing stipulates, it just says it's normal setback, which I think on ag land from a parcel line is 10 feet on the sides. 30 feet, I think it's 30 feet on a rear and 65 feet. That's for buildings.
And what kind of sanitation were you thinking about?
We discussed a complete septic system.
The building is going up.
And it's in the middle of the property, so there would be no setback.
Daniel, your motion is to accept the permit with the conditions that Darren just articulated.
Darren, when he went through that list though, I don't think he said anything about a concrete floor.
He said he wanted the concrete floor. Oh, right.
In the list that he just went through,
Right.
he did not mention anything about a concrete floor, but he said that earlier in this meeting that
Do you want that added to your conditions for your motion?
personally, I don't care. No, that's,
It's your motion. You got to make a decision.
I'll make it without the concrete floor then. It's not required by the state.
Okay, so the sanitation though, how do you do that if you don't have it drained? Just asking, so before we do this.
Oh, I don't know. I don't have all the answers.
Personally, I think we should require the concrete floor. It seems like much easier way of sanitation. You can hose out the stalls and yeah, it's just easier to clean in my opinion.
I'll make the motion with the concrete floors and it seems
Okay.
to make it easier. So with the concrete floors, in a time frame of a year, within the next year, have the concrete floors installed.
And the screening, when you talked about screening, I mean, you talked about the grass. I mean, I know I've had to put up trees, bushes because of hogs next to me. So the grass could really work to help with dogs.
So most conditional use permits are, if there's construction needed, most of them are based on a year to complete, is what you have passed and what you've approved in the past.
That's what Darren suggested, a year.
Yep.
Yeah, all right.
We also, there was some mention of a cap on the number.
Number of animals.
Yeah, I didn't hear a number.
There was no number of animals discussed. It was discussed a number of animals, but a specific number was not discussed.
What does the license in the state?
A license, you basically designate what that would be to the state, and that could be conditioned upon here. We would ask 65, since that would give us leeway with respect to having them on with pregnant puppies, babies too. But ultimately, with the goal with her personal animals and the sanctuary animals, adoptable animals, all of them, all in would be 65, because there could be 10 to 15 within a home.
Can we respond to that?
Hold on. Darren, does that sound reasonable to you?
So does that include personal dogs and sanctuary dogs?
Cat, all in.
Cats.
I think I think at one time it was discussed in one of the workshops, 40 dogs total.
Country and nobody limits to what your dogs are within your home.
The county does.
No comments from the gallery, please. You'll get your chance. Darren, does that sound reasonable?
For some reason, I think that it was discussed in a workshop, 40 dogs total, sanctuary dogs, rescue dogs, personal dogs.
Will you modify your motion to?
50.
Like that?
50.
50? All right.
Animals.
Are we gonna have no comments out here, or are we gonna have?
I'm gonna get to you. Just hold on. Other questions? Other discussion, I should say, about the motion.
But this condition, this CUP will have a limit on it, so we can review it in 1 year, I think.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, the commission can set a review in a year, 6 months, 5 years, whatever that condition is that you want to put on it.
All right, we need a second.
Oh, I think, do we do that before she gets her call?
No, I want a second first.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We approved the permit with a whole list of conditions that we've articulated. Other discussion among the commission?
Rich, I've got a question. So you said 50 animals. That's cats, dogs, animal.
Well, let's go back to horses and things. I don't know. That's what I think, horses and cows would be agriculture. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not going to limit to you how much livestock you can have. If you want to run a cattle farm, that's a whole different deal.
If you're going to take comments from out here like you are, you need to give everybody that's right to speak about the either you're taking them or you're not.
Come to the podium and talk to us.
Excuse me?
Please come to the podium and talk to us.
All I'm saying is that we're back here and we have, you're saying no comments from back here, so we're not commenting, but you're taking comments from up here. So I'm only asking that it be fair, that if you're not going to take comments, it should be no comments from anyone, and it's between the board of the Planning Commission and Mr. Wilson, not between you all and the other people making comments when we aren't allowed to.
Point well
What
taken.
are your comments?
Thank you very much. What?
What are your comments?
our comments would be that we would only, if you have to approve this, 40 of all animals, like we started with in the first place. I mean, obviously, we're against it, but totally, but if, why aren't we back to where we started from, of all animals? But again, we just want to be part of it.
Wait a minute. This is just what you said. We can't keep order in the House if people are speaking out of turn. If you want to speak, raise your hand. I'll acknowledge you and I'll point to the podium. Otherwise, we've got to maintain order. And her point is very well taken. So, back to the commission.
I think 50 dogs and cats, including her sanctuary animals.
Yeah, that was my intent.
Okay. We got the second for that.
I had the second. I did the second.
You did second. Yeah. Okay. So the question is before the board. Have we heard enough from the gallery to make a decision, or do we need more? I'm of the opinion, I've heard everything at least 3 times already.
One more thing. Is that all that conditions? It needs to be that she keeps an up-to-date state certification.
Yeah.
Okay with you?
Yes.
Okay with you?
Question. So if she has an inspection and the state gets with me with an unsatisfactory, how do I proceed?
I don't think an unsatisfactory is a revoke of a license.
So an unsatisfactory, according to Ben Lancaster, they're discussing revoking the license.
You can discuss a lot of things without taking action.
I'm just
I think-
relaying what the state
yeah.
said.
Personally, I think if the state doesn't revoke her license, that's where it comes into play.
As long as she maintains the license,
Okay.
we should be good.
I think there's plenty of, you look at restaurants that get dinged.
Yep.
They don't lose their restaurant license. They correct it and move on.
We're ready to vote on the motion.
Rich?
Oh, I just wanted to share that she did share a copy of her renewed license.
Please come up to the podium.
Yes.
It was just that Regina did share a copy of the newly renewed license that is not revoked or suspended to 2024.
Right. We got that.
You have, okay.
But if that gets revoked, then we should look at it again.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Opposed, nay. Abstainers, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Darren, do you have any more business?
Yeah, I need you to sign a couple things.
And I,
Charlene?
can we wait a minute? No, we wait till it clears a little bit.
Yeah.
Let them have a chance to talk and get out. Well, they hate to look at me. I have guineas. I have guineas. They hate to look at me. And they're agricultural. Who's going to do anything?
Oh. Sorry.
And just so that we can finish our meeting, you guys want more things to discuss. These are the ones where you make the motions.
I don't know if I'm supposed to do this, but I'm gonna do it. There, I'm gonna do it. God bless you all.
Yes, Charlene. Commission, we still got 2 more items. So, Gallery, we're still in business. We still got a couple more guys. So if you can go outside, that would be appreciated.
You can stay, you just.
Conditional use permit?
I'll sign on the right line, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Rich and I have discussed this, and he told me I could say it.
Charlene, you got the floor.
Okay, so all of us need to know that we can't go anywhere and say that we represent what the planning board is going to do. And if we go around and we do a roll calls, and that's illegal. You know, we can't do that. So, I mean, it's just to be known that we cannot do, you know, we can't say that we represent the board if we don't really represent the board. And we can only represent the board if we go out and call everybody, which is illegal. So, you know, does that how to say it?
Yeah, I attended the commissioners meeting this morning, and they made a decision to end Mike White's tenure on our commission. If you want to know why, it's recorded. Go back and listen to it, and you can hear the arguments back and forth. But that's part and parcel to what.
And Rich has done a really good job the last two meetings at the commission meeting. I mean, they'll try to put him on the spot, and he'll say, "I don't speak for the commission." No.
And I don't. Thank you. Thank you. Darren?
I do not have anything else.
Well, along those lines, just as, I mean, if I run into you in Walmart and say, what do you think about the solar deal? You know, at what point are there, at what point do I have a capacity to process the information?
We can talk to each other, but we can't take like a roll call. I'm gonna
Well,
call in.
I understand the difference between saying that I represent the board, especially in a public
So
context.
in other boards that I'm on, 3 members can't be together talking about a subject.
Okay.
2 can, but if you have 3.
I think
It's
the
actually
state
a quorum.
law.
It's
Darren, are you?
Yes, that makes sense because of the numbers.
Yeah, there can't be a quorum.
Okay.
Okay. But that's different from for our board of commissioners, because they can't even talk to each other.
But the 2 is a quorum.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I think it would be helpful to put a document together. I mean, because I'm one of the newest, and it's been 2 years, believe it or not, come next month. But like, how long do you speak? You know, what, just a few of the procedural things that is a little bit tribal knowledge.
I can work on that.
And
Darren, can you get,
it doesn't have to be super formal, but if somebody new, no, you're the newest.
No, I am.
You're the,
He's really new.
sorry,
Like the,
it's almost 9
you're an
o'clock.
old timer now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I can put something together as a,
That's super formal, just what do you give the new person to say, okay, now I'm not going to call Darren at home and everybody else does.
which is fine. I answer.
and part of the discussion this morning, I will share this with you, is we're appointed by the commissioners, and we serve at the pleasure of the commissioners. And we don't serve, and when we don't serve that pleasure anymore, they can remove us. So we keep that in mind. We work at the pleasure of the board. Darren, anything else?
I have nothing.
Board members, anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all opposed, or all in favor? Hand up. Meeting adjourned.